Let's talk about the elections of August 2022, mapping the violence and conflict hotspots of the country. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission was created after the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Sindio. And it had, of course, to look back into what led us there and how shall we avoid getting there in the future. So for this reason, the NCIC has this year embarked on a nationwide hotspot mapping and assessment to acquire a detailed understanding of the peace and security situation in the country ahead of the election. The study sought to establish the factors that are likely to trigger electoral violence across the 47 counties, map out county conflict hotspots with the potential for electoral violence, and provide recommendations on interventions that can prevent and mitigate electoral violence. So, yesterday, the NCIC had a big, grand event where they unveiled these hotspots. And Commissioner Dr. Danvas Makori is here with us in the studio to tell us these hotspots, where they are, how they found out that these are hotspots. Commissioner, good morning. Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you. Which one is more important, Madaraka Day or Jamhuri Day?
They're both important.
Surely.
Are you sure, Sidi?
Yes, they are.
Oh, really?
Internal self-rule
Is as important as
absolute control, personal independent rule.
How long is that tether, CT?
I was thinking as I went along.
But thank you for having me. First of all, just before I talk about that, I want to thank this show. And the reason I think this show is because your consistency in highlighting issues, especially in this case, Marsabit. And it's because of that we have serious interventions going on. And I always say this, you never know. I mean, sometimes people think this is just entertainment or information, but it goes a long way in making a big difference. I can tell you it's because of what you do here, and not just a few people out there that be able to bring pressure and highlight the issues, because it's there are people who prefer those things happen there and continues to happen because it benefits certain people, let it stay there. When you shine the light and expose the darkness, you are made a big difference. So we have a serious operation going on there. Lives are being saved. I know we have issues here and there in terms of the operation, but by and large, it is making a big difference. So thank you guys, and keep it up. It makes, just to let you know, very on the ground, you make a big difference. Yeah.
Asante
Thank you
sana.
very
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Now that we're on that topic, before actually we come to the other hotspots, because that is one
It's
of
got
the
hotspots, yes.
definitely
Yeah.
Marsabit County is one of the hotspots. What's happening right now in Marsabit?
The government of Kenya has deployed specialized units. The RDU, the BPU, the GSU.
MRI.
Necessary.
And it's hundreds. And they're largely in central Marsabit, which is Marsabit Town, Saku constituency. They've been combing most houses and some manyatas outside looking for illegal firearms. They have arrested a number of people. Are they close to, I think, 30 people have been arrested, who one way or another participated or are participating or in this conflict. We have had issues, of course, with community complaining about the overhandedness, excessive force. That is understandable works. But, I mean, the police are giving clear instructions before they go there that they have to abide by their orders and by the Constitution of Kenya. So, by and large, it is one of the better operations we've seen in the country. At least citizens, especially within town, are able now to do business. You know, you could never do anything in Marsabit. You could not walk in Marsabit. It was dangerous. It's like Wild West. You walk and somebody just comes and shoots you from border. At least there's normalcy there. The curfew is affecting a lot of people, especially our Muslim brothers, because they can't pray as they ought to, the hours they ought to. So we kind of feel for them. Maybe the curfew can be lifted, but the operation should go on. It's done how it's intended all the way, not really. There's still some things need to be done more. But by and large, order and sanity has been restored. Because the reality is you cannot come to negotiating table when you have firepower behind you. You will not, so the thing is we're trying to remove
So
the
the big
steam
one
from
is-
the D. Yeah, because if these guys have powerful sting, so you have to remove that sting before you engage them. So
Okay.
the sting is being removed slowly. Yeah, and
Are you getting rid of the bad bees though?
no,
Because why do you want to
that is why I was saying it's not done all the way it's supposed to be, because you gotta get rid of them, and they're known. It's not like they're not known, so we have to. I mean, that's our assertion, especially from a commission. We know the people behind it. We know the people who support the infrastructure, because there's a highly sophisticated logistics infrastructure behind this militia when they move and attack. So for me, I want to go after the command and control and the infrastructure, because that's how you remove these things completely. You gotta be serious, because you have to, Kenyans don't understand, especially in northern Kenya, and this is one of the factors to answer your question of how we came to this study, which factors, variables are affected. There is, in 2020, we did a study, and there was over 650,000 illegal firearms in northern Kenya.
How many again?
650,000. 650,000 illegal firearms. Right now, probably they're like, maybe say 700,000.
Illegal
this is-
firearms?
Yes. This is fact.
And
Public
here,
knowledge.
firearms, we're not referring to bows and arrows.
No. Firearms. You have to understand, light firearms. This is stats that are out there. Okay,
Wow.
we're not making up this figure. Now, the reason I'm giving you context is because in this part of the country, a gun is like a shepherd's staff.
Right.
Everybody has it.
Yeah.
So the big deal. And the context for that was, you guys know, before 2010 and before the devolution came, that part of the country was neglected, of course, marginalized.
Yep.
So they protected themselves, especially how it started was on the border communities. We could not secure our borders. So from the Uganda side, from South Sudan side, from Ethiopia side, they armed themselves to defend. Now, those guns later turned inside for offense.
Yeah.
Now, the communities that didn't have them, of course, bought them to defend themselves. So it was defense, then they had offense, and then, that's why we had 650,000 illegal firearms.
Dr. Where do they buy these arms from?
Most of they come from Somalia.
So
And
they
South
cross
Sudan.
over from Somalia
And South
from
Sudan.
South Sudan.
Yes. Actually,
Through the porous borders
yes.
into our country.
Yes. It's an open border, actually. Even it's porous. It's just
And
open.
what's the going rate for these arms?
An AK-47 goes about 80,000 Kenyan shillings.
Okay. Now, I've always said
Yeah.
that the business of conflict is not cheap.
No, it's not.
So that means that there's somebody who is bankrolling these operations,
Okay.
because the people who are wielding these weapons
Yes.
are not likely the ones who are purchasing them.
In certain places, yes. But in communities like the Kericho Valley, that is happening right now, and this is just a reality, so I'm not casting blame on anybody. It's a reality. A bullet is 200 shillings.
Yeah.
For an AK.
Yeah. An M16 goes for about 120K.
M16 is which one?
M16 is what the Americans use. The AK-47 version of the Americans.
It's a newer version.
It's a better version.
It's a better version.
Yeah. It's more powerful, has a longer range.
Longer range.
Yeah. But
Okay,
the AK handles better in our terrain because of the dust. It's very more resilient. But the M16 is better. Okay. That's 120. Now, what happens is, especially in the Kericho Valley, Sukuti Valley, is the elites now. One of the things, you see, right now, if somebody dies, is sick, there's WhatsApp groups of Kuchanga.
Yes.
So the groups there are literally, and this is fact, you contribute money to buy firearms to protect your manyatta.
Wow.
Yes, that's what.
So there's like a merry-go-round.
Yes.
Tukona
You
bunduki
buy-
gapi?
Yes.
Now we continue changai.
Yeah.
We had
Because if you don't do that, it's your brother, it's your mother, it's your sister on the line.
killed.
So when the member of parliament
Yeah.
was requesting from national government at some point, which she then got castigated for and
Yeah.
arrested, when she was saying, then give us the mandate to protect our people and carry these arms, these things were already happening. Communities were already doing it for themselves and arming themselves. But what she was saying is, let it
make
be legal.
Yes, and this is sensitive. It's very complicated. When he initially became a commissioner, when I spent a lot of time, especially in Suguta Valley, Kericho Valley, what's happening right now. I'm going there tomorrow. I was for the idea of disarmament. Okay, like why do we have illegal firearms? Because it
Mop
really
them
contributes back. Yeah, mop them up. Okay, first of all, there's no capacity to mop 650,000 firearms.
Yeah.
Let's just begin there. But the reality is that when you remove the firearms, for example, from the Marakwets, an example, Okay. What do?
You disadvantage them.
Yes. There's
You're
a balance
given-
of power
you're given
there.
power to the
Shifts.
Pokot.
Yes, yes. You understand. You expose them. Exactly what happened in the Middle East with the US removed Saddam Hussein. As much as they didn't like him, they should realize that he's keeping that place safe
Yep.
for the whole world. The moment that guy was out, whole place has been civilized still today.
Yep.
Yes, that's going to happen.
What about Gaddafi's Libya?
Yeah. You see, so as much as you don't like somebody, the fact that they are there with whatever they have keeps the balance of power. So there's a point. So for me, and we talked to these regional security teams, and we decided with one of the regional security teams, the best way is to go that way, legalize these weapons. Because let me say 90% of them, like I said, it's a shepherd's stuff. There's 10% now to what is happening in Marsabit. See, the guns in Marsabit are not your AK-47s and M16s. It's a HK, MK, machine guns.
So these are
RPGs.
more sophisticated.
Not even sophisticated. They are these are powerful.
These are military.
These are military grade.
warfare.
You know how far an HK machine gun can pick you out? 2 kilometers. An AK-47 shoots maximum is 300. Really, if you're a good, you understand.
Maximum.
So RPGs. I'm talking about this is it's an army that is out there. So that's special. This is not your regular.
So essentially, what you're
AK-47.
saying
Yeah.
that sending the police force there is a waste of time. Because they are not armed to deal.
Not like
That
this.
is why
You're
that is
taking
wh-
them to a full-scale war zone
Yeah.
with people who are armed as well in a war zone.
That's why you take now those specialized units.
That's why I expect
The
special
RDUs
units. Yeah,
and-
these are highly special units. And in last time when you had issues with Molaya, the Moyale KDF came in. The same thing in Elgon. That's why the KDF usually goes there, because the only people who can contend with these units is the KDF, because that's how they can match the firepower. And actually, they have air superiority. Actually, most of the times, even in this place in Capero last time, they had to bring jet fighters and helicopters, because these guys, you cannot go or train with them. It's a serious war out there. It's just a reality, guys.
And in Kenya, and it is in this country.
It is, yeah, it is, and that is why one of the factors that contribute to this study is that we have a number of composites that we did. One of them actually was pre-existing conflicts.
Yeah.
Because they can very easily come to electoral conflict. It is not yet. They have their own fight they're fighting for, whatever the reason they're fighting, whether it's pasture, whether it's just they hate each other. But it's not easily, a politician, a nefarious politician can easily turn that into electoral conflict. That's the factors we're looking at, actually. Yeah.
Has it not been used though before? Have politicians not been, taking advantage of these armed militia
Of course.
and turning them against their opponents?
I sometimes I get in trouble for speaking the truth. You see, in Lamu, this year, when there was an attack in the village,
Yep.
every newspaper, every news channel said, Al-Shabaab.
Al-Shabaab is coming. On this show,
We
we
said.
said, don't give us that BS.
Yes.
Don't tell us about terrorists.
No.
Because I can tell you for a fact, it was this were paid people. Actually, those guys have become mercenaries. They're paid and hired by the locals and business people and politicians first of all, to issue the underlying issue is land, but more importantly, the votes that are about to happen. Because if you displace people, you rearrange. It is gerrymandering by force.
Yeah.
Gerrymandering at the point of a battle. That's exactly what happened.
That's what happens.
You understand? So yes, they to answer your question, yes, and in this case, they paid an outlawed terrorist group actually to do that. So as much as it was them, but it wasn't them. It was just they were paid people actually to destabilize, to displace people. Why? Political ends. Because if you move people from certain constituency, which is a committee that won't vote for you, of course now you have your majority who will vote for you. That's exactly just how it was. You understand?
What I find particularly intriguing is everything we're discussing here is a culmination of very many activities over a period of time.
Yeah.
Under the government's watch. It's not as though the government doesn't know this is happening. They do. But somehow it is allowed to flourish. You see, as you're speaking, my mind went back to 1992 when a new concept was introduced to this country, something we didn't have before. They called them tribal clashes. The logic was exactly the same. Now, the window it opened was opened even further in 1997. Is again, we started having these issues during election time. Now, we are now talking about something which was introduced then, and look at the behemoth that it has become. Look at the monster it has now become. And yet, the government has the means to actually put a halt to it. Completely, meaning it ceases, it stops, and that's it. This issue in Marsabit that you speak of, when you talk to locals, do you really think that the Gabra or the regular Borana, that when they meet, they're in conflict? They are not in conflict. These people even they speak the same language. You can't tell the difference between the two.
Very true.
So where does the problem then come in? It has to be instigated.
Very true.
Yet, there are people who, for whatever reason, seem to have understood that it is beneficial to keep that status quo and even to proliferate it further so that you have this same thing being replicated in other parts of the country. But then, what is the end game when you have so many people with ammunition, they have the sort of arms, and with the sophistication that these arms seem to acquire? What sort of situation do you think you have in the country? Because these are militias. These are groups that are there clearly for hire. What do you think happens when somebody decides that maybe, after all, if you're paying them, they'll do exactly what you want?
Yeah.
What picture do we have here?
You know, you can have insurrections, or you can have things that are happening, undercover, like Al-Shabaab, crossing over from operating their operation base in Somalia, crossing and then moving back and recruiting cells.
Yes.
But we've also seen what has happened with Al-Shabaab and the radicalization of the youth.
Yes.
Serious security was deployed, intelligence gathering, that they were able to actually deal with the issue of radicalization. Not deal, but at least address. In this particular case where we're talking about, serious, heavy weaponry that's circulating within the community, there's no way you can tell me that our very capable security forces and intelligence machinery are not able to track and see what's happening. That they can be caught unawares. How many MP whatevers? How? Wow. That's true. It can't happen. So the question then comes, Danvas, when you're mapping this, this is not the first time that you're doing this.
This is the first one.
Oh, this is the first major one that you're doing. Looking at these are the hotspots in the country. But through the years, you've been looking at these are the hotspots. These are the causes of conflict. These are the causes of violence. These are areas that could escalate, and how we can de-escalate them. You also then are able to see what the gaps are in the national security apparatus. Have you identified those in this report? Have you said, this is where the weak spots are, and this is how then the criminals are able to exploit this?
Yes, we have. Actually, there's a report that this is more of a cleaner public report. It's more of a that went to them. In this study was done between January and April, but data collection was done actually in January and early Feb. The raw data, of course, was collected, and they started to do analyses, all that stuff, compilation analysis. As we started seeing things, of course, we passed to our counterparts, because we're still part of that infrastructure. And interventions started being put in place. The nature of this study, of course, is dynamic. So we looked at certain variables that are there, and the reality is things have changed on the ground. There are places which probably will move up in high-risk areas, the people which have probably moved down. Okay, why? Because they understood. I mean, this is actually our mandate as a commission. Number one is advise government. City or academic, advice implicit there means the person you're advising
is not obliged to take the advice.
So it's
good faith from both sides.
So you advise, okay, and we did that, and certain measures started being put in place to mitigate, to disrupt that cycle of violence, or to begin violence in the first place. So where there were gaps which we identified, so you know what, here we have an issue. I mean, the places where nobody thinks is an issue. I can tell you, like Bungoma, everybody thinks Bungoma is very good. I can tell you, we have been having serious issues there. Okay,
In Bungoma.
Nobody knows. I mean, for a long time, actually. I'm going to give you an example to show you how we're able to address it. Because I used to get a call every single day from those sides, from monitors on the ground, from the county commissioner. And this is what would happen. As you know, their funerals, the part of the country, is a big deal. So in every funeral, the opposing candidates, especially this is a gubernatorial, they will just invade a random funeral. They don't know who died. As long as it's a funeral, they just come. And I can tell you, do you know how many people died in these funerals? Because violence, because this supporter and these supporters, they all come and clash in a funeral. Okay? Wow. And now it's started escalating, and we know the history of Mount Elgon. And the backdrop of Mount Elgon is that which is where Bukomri is. We started noticing this, and we engaged and alerted our force, our operators. They engage, first of all, the politicians themselves. We engage the politicians themselves, and I said, you guys need to tone it down. And put certain measures on the ground to make sure they don't do what they are doing. Okay, so we saw our tone down, and that's just a reality. So you can see, sometimes it's good to be in comfort in a place like Nairobi, but we get on ground. Things are not as easy sometimes as it is. So long story short is this, that certain interventions have been put in place. They were able to engage them when the gaps, and I think I can confidently say, if that same study was done today, I think the average will not be at 53%. It will probably go down because a lot of things have been addressed because there's an urgency to it. We put an urgency to it. This was just a formal release of it, but we had to share with them. And I think they've tried for the most part. I can tell you.
And the leaders have been cooperative.
Yeah, for the most part, yes.
Okay.
Yes, for the most part, yes.
Let's take a break.
Yes.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The conversation continues. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM, on YouTube and Facebook. Our guest this morning is Dr. Danvas Makori, Commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. We're talking about conflict hotspots in the country. So apart from those ones in the northern Kenya, Danvas, what are the other major hotspots that you see?
Actually, to me, the biggest surprise was Kericho.
Kericho?
Yes. Kericho actually is number 3 in the country. That was the biggest surprise. Everybody was surprised. Actually, yesterday I was talking to some of the leaders from there. And actually, not even them. Every time we share this info, even of the counterpart security, naturally you be defensive. No, my place, if I'm in charge of security, cannot be that bad.
Can't be that.
You understand? So even the leaders are like, how did you arrive at that? And I told them I even forwarded them the research itself. I told them just go to how the methodology, how it was done, how we came to how we identified the variables. I mean, this is global standards. It was peer reviewed, and what happened? Kericho, the reason surprise is number 3 in the country was because Sondu. 1, 2. Kericho is at the fault line between these 2 camps of Azimio. That Kericho-Kisumu border. Actually, what was affecting Kericho was because it is right at the border, the Kisumu-Kericho border. So that fault line. I'm going to quote, because these studies we used a mixed approach design on the study. Okay, FGs, surveys, key informant interviews. And one of the people, actually on 2 sides now, I'm going to quote somebody who said this in an FDG we did. We said, I know for a fact this election we have won. Yet to eat Meshinda. Okay? On the opposite side, like we know for a fact, finally
To
Meshinda. So everyone on both sides is convinced. Therefore, now we did a follow-up question to that. Almost like a sentiment analysis. Okay. Now that you know you guys have won, they're like, and everybody's convinced. We have the numbers in that. These guys, we have this and this and that. Now that you're convinced, what happens if you lose? Somehow, they bang the table. Like, first of all, we will not lose. And if we lose, it's because those guys have what? Stolen. pure and simple. So you already sat at that. When you sat at that, especially a place like Kericho, this happened in Kericho, and that was largely the narrative. Okay, what already people are at arms already, and mentally they're like, listen,
The only way we
yeah.
lose is if they steal.
And you know what they said? That follow up is, and will not allow them to steal.
And what
So
will
these
they
are-
do?
No. So these are the factors then that would help you then arrive that this is a hotspot for any kind of conflict that would arise out of an election decision, and say that there's a potential for conflict thereafter. Is that what then makes it a hotspot?
No, there is the Institute of Democracy and Election. We used their variables, and they have 10. They have what we call exogenous. Okay, things have nothing to do with the election itself. You look at them, like for example, the state of the economy, inflation. Okay, so that has nothing to do with the economy. Drugs, prevalence of drugs. I was shocked actually. I was reading to answer your question. I was reading I don't know, you saw the economic survey by KNBS.
Yes.
On the security perspective proportion, which I'm glad they came up with that. The tonnage of drugs that was captured, for lack of a better word, last year quadrupled. Drugs is a national security issue we have in this country because they're a catalyst to this. Okay, so these are nothing to do with election per se. Those are exogenous. Okay, you look at what we talked about pre-existing conflict already. Those are exogenous. They have nothing to do with the election itself. Those are factors you look at, and then you look at now on the ADA they have 10 in factors now that are directly related to election itself. The trustworthiness of the EMB. In this case, it's the IBC. How data is transmitted. How many polls are there? Data verification. You just saw the other day IBC say, well, our systems were breached because some people are transferred from one place to the other. Such things that. Then you look at that, then you analyze that data. You do something called composite index where you look at all of them, you look at the variables, then you agree. And they're listed actually. We made sure the methodology was very detailed in how we did it. So when you look at all those many factors, and the variables, then we arrange them into the potential triggers, institutional issues, and pre-existing conflict. Those are the three indices we did, and then did a composite all of them. If you look at all of them, that's where you arrive at now these counties. So you look at basically we did all 47 counties. That's why some of them, there's nothing, what's going to happen as far as we're concerned. But these ones, it's really the top 6. I mean, top 6 kind of know them.
So what are the
but
top
see,
6?
It was the top 6 is Nairobi. Nairobi is 80%. I mean, there's an 80% chance. Yesterday when they said that people are not very excited, but I want you to spend time and go to Kawangware, okay, go to Madare, and these are to other question you asked. Is a detailed one, which is drilled to the neighborhood, which we had to go say this neighborhood. These are the people they are thinking and they are feeling, and tell the people. So intervention is to be done there. Nairobi, Nairobi. It was Nakuru.
Nakuru number 2.
Yes. Then Kericho is number 3. Supplies in number 3. Okay. And Western Gishu, Kisumu, and Mombasa. Okay. And apart from Kericho, all of them are metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's that convergence of these two dynamic movements. Everybody is there.
Everybody is, you'll find them. But also Western Gishu coming in 4th. Why?
You see, Western Gishu, one of the things that we looked at also the history of violence. That's one of the factors we're looking at.
Okay.
The other place has a history of violence.
Okay.
Because if that place has a history of violence, most likely, and the history is not just for one-off. You understand? The one-off, okay, you can say, that was an outlier, okay? But it's a consistency history of violence. What does it point out to? Most likely, it will still happen. Because
you mentioned the exogenous issues.
Yes.
Now, what if the issues such as economic matters,
Yes.
drought,
Yes.
things that are beyond your control, What then would you consider to be the issues that are germane to an election? What are the factors that point to election issues directly?
One, preparedness of the EMB.
Yes.
Funding of that EMB. Okay, is it funded? Is the independence of EMB? Okay, that's very important. Is it independent? The composition of that EMB. Okay, the general perception, even of the public, because if you go to a place like India, okay, their EMB, the population, the citizens can die to vouch for their EMB.
They trust their electoral
100%,
money.
more than anything. It is the most trusted institution in India. It's the largest democracy in the world. You understand? That's directly related, because the question is, city is to us now. If I don't trust IBC, will I trust the results? No.
Yeah.
So I'll say, okay, I don't. You guys,
Not even results. You won't trust the process.
the process,
Nothing.
the
Anything
transmission,
that is relates to
yes,
them
yeah,
will not be
is
trusted.
Yeah. So those are the things that are directly related to the actual process itself. The transmission, especially, like now they're talking about the manual part. I mean, those are the issues now that now you and I look at and say, no, as Kenyans, we have issues, and we've talked with them, we've addressed them, and we go there with them on the ground, especially in a place like you mentioned, issue. We work closely with them to restore public trust, because it's important. They're neutral, no, not really neutral. More the word is impartial, because they're actors in this. Neutral means you're not involved. Okay, the impartial umpires in this process. Are they? I mean, they've tried the past few by-elections. I mean, I give credit where it's due. They really tried to make sure they do it as it is. Even though sometimes it's not easy to do that, but they've really tried.
True.
Yeah.
That's the electoral process,
Process, yes.
itself. But then, when you look at the very matters that you mentioned, oddly enough, in my mind, they're the issues which are actually fundamental to an election.
True.
Do we have
Those ones, the economy,
those to me,
state of security.
those are the defining issues that determine how it is, as a voter, my participation in that process will be. All these other things. The IBC,
Practically or theoretically, City?
practically.
So the state of inflation will determine whether someone will,
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Inflation and its consequences will have a very direct bearing.
You know why? There's a disproportionate effect to inflation. 61% of Nairobians eat 1 meal a day. 61%. Okay. How it affects the family living in Kibra inflation, when kerosene goes up, and how it affects you. You pretty much in the middle class will continue in your lifestyle. Okay. Go out, hang out where you go. Drive, you're still driving.
Daktari, the middle class are struggling like hell. They are really struggling.
They're really struggling.
They
Okay.
are really struggling.
Because now inflation is
what
way
you're
high.
seeing is
Yes.
appearances being kept.
But you see, the difference between the struggler who's struggling is the person now is eating 1 meal every other day, not one day. Why? Do you know that the reason why they go to school is not because school is important, because now the kids can eat in school.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So now, this person who feels this way, what was the issue that pushed the country in 2007 or 8 that you mentioned, Eric? Agenda 4, high inequality. The Gini index is still high. Have we addressed underlying issues that pushed our country to the precipice? Our Gini index keeps on going up. Has it reduced? No, it hasn't. So that inflation does affect, because they don't feel part of this society. They're disenfranchised already. 41% of Nairobians walk to work every single day. Okay, 47% take public transport. Okay, now when the MAT increases fare, okay,
It affects
if this person cannot afford fare anymore, he's gonna go now to the working.
That person joins the working
walk.
masses.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm looking at all of these factors,
Yes.
that you've mentioned here.
Yeah.
And so we're saying, look, we're going into a period where selection heavy in terms of who's going to be the next leader.
Yes.
And at whatever level. So now we go in with this information, knowing that there's certain areas in the country that could potentially implode if certain things are not done. And I mean, just looking at the example that you gave about Bungoma, right? This is their stand, that it's either we win or we win. And if we don't win, it's because somebody has stolen. And if they've stolen, then we're going to have to do something about that,
it, yeah.
right?
Yep.
So the potential for conflict is really heavy, and you can already feel the heat. So the question is, what interventions, if possible, if anything, what interventions can then be put in place, or what can be done to make sure that you, if anything, minimize the level of damage? Because we're coming off of 2007, we saw what mess can happen. And here we are saying, essentially, that there are hotspots around the country that could hurtle us in that direction again. What can be done?
So many things, but I'm going to summarize them this way. One of the things that we have advocated as a recommendation we've been doing and we've seen it make a difference, I call it a coordinated all-government approach. Now, there's no one single institution can do this by themselves. And now NCIC cannot do it, IBC can't do it, but you need everybody. And that's why even yesterday's launch, we had some people asking, why is this guy is here? IPOA was there. The chairperson of IPOA was there. Okay? The CEO of RPP was there. Why? Because if RPP holds political parties accountable to political parties act, okay, and their own charters, actually, I won't have a job. You understand? I won't have a job because the political parties are abiding by their act, and the politicians they're bound by their own charters and their own constitutions, whereby politicians that are inciting or dangerous are removed. But you see, its own parties that allow these guys to run in the first place.
Sure.
So if they enforce that, I mean, I won't have a job. I'll be happy. You understand? So we need everybody on board. We need the DCI, we need the RPP, we need the OPP, we need us, everybody, especially on board to coordinate it. Because you talk about the gaps. You see, what happens is when I'm in my own silo and you're in your own silo, I'm just doing my own little thing. But see, when we come together as synergy, we're able to close in on the gaps and coordinate much well, and that has been happening. Okay, on our part, for example, what we've been doing, especially in these areas, there's like just for example, in the reason we know like a place Kericho, in the past I'd say a year and a half, we've had Apple Sondu. Okay, we've had at least Kisumu, Kericho, but at least 23 engagements, community engagements, and they really de-escalated the issues. We've told them, listen, at the end of the day, guys, there's gonna be a winner and there's gonna be a loser.
Yes.
Yep.
Fact.
Yes.
Be prepared
Okay,
for that.
but also the reality is the person who wins or lose, the reality is they don't bring food to your table. Disconnect. You invested so heavily. I mean, this guy is vested, but the reality is right now. Are you feeding? Are you taking your cattle to the market? Are you farming? Yes, life is going on. So life will go on. Okay, understand? The responsibility, whoever wins, is to create an environment for you to
Continue.
with your life. That's
Yes,
your
yes.
responsibility. I ain't gonna bring food on your table. I ain't gonna take your kids to school. You gotta do it. So now, once you bring that reality to them, they go, okay, I guess, yes, it's not that really serious. Kakamega and Nandi, same thing. So we've had a lot of community engagements, especially in the fault lines, where they're really pronounced, okay? And there also we do that. There's a special platform called the Wiano platform, which we convened, okay, with the National Steering Committee. We are the co-chairs of that. The UN is there, IBC is there, the key stakeholders really, as far as the election is concerned. Therefore, we're able to, if there's an emerging issue, we're able to address very quickly. Because sometimes government bureaucracy contributes to this factor. Because if I see an issue at the ground, you know what usually is done? I come to the office, I do a memo, a letter, it's written, it's delivered, it is received, and that's about 3 weeks. You understand? So right now, we say, no. Come to the table right now.
You
I'm
notice a
calling.
move.
Yeah.
Today.
Today, this is what's happening. What are you doing? What can we do? So, for example, RPP is doing a peace caravan. They wanted to do. They were planning to do a peace caravan. Now, they took our information yesterday and said, hold on, you know what? We'll do the peace caravans in these 6 counties where it's a hotspot. Now, maybe they were planning to do somewhere in Malindi. Well, there's no issue in Malindi. It's easy to do a peace caravan there. You understand? But now, actually, the CEO yesterday said, you know what? We will specifically target
These hotspots.
and because we've drilled down information, we tell them specifically where. Because Nairobi is big, okay? Nakuru is big, Mombasa is big. Where are you going? Kisumu is big. I mean, Kisumu town is peaceful. Milimani is fine in Kisumu. Yeah? So you go to Kondele, for example. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
So that approach that they're able to do coordination is really helpful with our government agencies. And as long as you engage in the community, in public education, actually, it does help.
Yeah.
100% effective, or can we do it all the way? Not really, but given the resource and time constraint we have, you just do your best.
Among the
Right.
questions that you ask when you have these mixed methods in data collection, do you ever ask your respondents when they've told you categorically this is the standard they have and they won't allow it? Do you ask the question, how will you not allow it? What will you do to disallow it? Do you ever ask that question?
Yes, of course we do.
And they tell you.
Oh wow.
I think there's a playbook they saw in Nairobi. They do all those tear gas Mondays.
Yes.
Yeah, people are ready to go there. Listen, no, we will. We actually, somebody said
Man
we
to
will.
man.
Yeah, actually, somebody said we will actually. One of the respondents said we will storm that polling station when they are counting.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. As they say, so now you got no, which is a good thing now. It's good, and I say at least nakwambia mapema. You know, it's good that nakwambia mapema.
And they're being
It's
honest.
like they're being honest. Therefore, now you can actually now engage them and tell them now working through the election process. And also now we're able now to advise about security, able to advise ABC, these people in this area, better watch. And are they able to tell people, okay, we need to put more numbers in terms of security, because some places is very peaceful, but there are places, I mean, people are really are invested. And you know what we've noted actually, on this side, a trend that later came out. We always focus on the national politics in terms of election violence. What we realize, the real danger, as far as we are concerned, as the commission, is the local politics, the gubernatorial politics. Actually, for me, my real concern is not now normally, because we've done a lot of interventions as far as national politics is concerned in these hotspot areas. Now, the real concern, the really emerging form of election violence is not the national scale. No,
It's
no,
local.
no. It is local.
Local
That is the real
MCA,
problem.
local MP,
Yes,
or local governor.
especially governors. Governors' seats are problematic, to say the least. Give an example: Homa Bay, Makori,
Uh-huh.
Siaya. Yes.
Hotly contested.
Oh, yes.
Actually,
Yes.
use
Access to budgets.
volatile.
Totally.
That's the right word.
Volatile, not hotly contested.
It's
volatile.
volatile.
That's a better description.
You know, someone said in 2012, there's a new constitution, we're going into a new election, and this guy is Ugandan. He said, okay, you Kenyans, you have created 47 warlords. You have created 47 warlords. If you think about it, that's the kind of thing, because by and by, as the position of governor becomes clear to everybody, the influence of this office of governor becomes clear to everybody.
That's the
It's
focus.
going to achieve what we wanted to achieve, which was, remove the focus from the presidency
Yes,
and bring
bring
it
it
down
down.
to local,
Yeah.
and also demand more of your local governor. However, now it makes that seat very competitive. And because it's local, then it starts looking at the various divisions in terms of demographics.
Yep.
So, like where you're saying you have multi-ethnicity in a county, it becomes an issue.
Or clan issues
Clan issues as
in a
well.
county. Those are the dynamics that are at play. And clans here is all communities.
By the way, and
rules
clan
and
issues
yeah.
begin with the post of MCA
Yes.
Yeah. True.
before you even get to MP.
Very true. I know MCA seats that in some. I know an MCA seat that so far, one of the MCAs, they have already spent 12 million far from the campaign. And an MCA seat.
MCA.
Yeah, I know.
For a ward.
I know one has spent already 6 million.
So when you say invested,
What's the
then this one
likely
is win or
population?
win. It's win or win.
You get the point.
Yeah.
What's the likely population of that ward?
27,000. It's a big one. 27,000.
So if you do the arithmetic, it's not bad.
12 million shillings.
Yeah.
Yes, you-
That hatujafika bado. We're still in today's
And
it's huge.
there will be very many candidates.
And we're going to the
The
finishing
winner
stretch
will
now.
win with about 3,000, 4,000 votes.
Maximum.
And you have
Because there
spent
are
20
first
million
of all,
shillings for this
Eric,
seat.
remember, there'll be many contenders. So these votes are going to be divided.
In
Divided.
2017, I know an MCA who spent 25 million. Right here in Nairobi. An MCA. And I'm kidding not. I know the MCA right here. Not very close to this studio.
Did they win?
They won 25 billion shillings later. You better win at 25
I
million.
mean, 25 million, then you don't win.
Yeah, what I'm saying. Yeah, fact. So that's how the stakes are high. So you can see now how violence can be localized, because they're the ones who mobilize the little goons.
Yep.
And, okay, I can ask you, what do you think he's doing? How do you think he's spending 25 million? Because he's paying up.
He's paying the guys. He's paying the guys who are saying they're going to burn down the polling station.
That's one of the ways he's
No, guys. He's mobilizing.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
I
community
forgot.
mobilization.
Yes, Dr. Danvas Makori, we thank you very much once again for coming.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Come again soon. Next time, let's come and look directly after you've gone to Kericho Valley. You spend some time. When you come back, please come and tell us exactly what you find on the ground.
Are you sure you want me to?
Yes.
Yes,
do
we
that?
do.
Yes.
We do.
Are you-
Because the
yeah.
thing is this,
Yeah.
huh? One of the ways in which you actually bring clarity, you demystify all these things.
Completely.
Okay. I will come back.
Keep it here for more conversations. Dr. Danvas Makori is a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.